Hello and welcome back. This is our 11th core lesson. Can you believe how quickly we've progressed through these core lessons? Well, today is a special lesson and the title of it is Becoming More Resourceful. What does that really mean? Are you familiar with the definition of being resourceful? Well, if not, don't worry. In the next section, I'll explain. But before we get there, let's look at our quote of the day. And that is, a resourceful person can see opportunity when others see only obstacles. Keep that in mind throughout the rest of this lesson. And let's go through the order of things for this core lesson on resourcefulness. Number one is, of course, our introduction and mystery question. 2, what is resourcefulness and why is it important for you? 3, how resourceful are you? Then, how do we become resourceful people? And we'll wrap it up with our mystery question answered. Without further ado, let's get into the mystery question. So here we are with how many camels do you count? 17. The story goes like this. A father had 17 camels when he passed away and left them to his 3 sons. The last will and testament of the father stated that the eldest son should get half of all of his camels, while the middle son should be given 1/3 of all the camels. The youngest son should be given 1/9 of all the camels. As it's not possible to divide 17 evenly by any of these numbers, 17 by 2, by 3, or by 9, the 3 sons started to fight with each other. They couldn't come up with a solution. So one of them said, "Aha! Why don't we ask a wise man for a solution?" And they did. They asked this wise man, "We have 17 camels. What do we do? How do we divide them by a half, a third, and a ninth?" And the wise man thought for a moment and he came up with a solution, and a solution that worked well. So your mystery question, ladies and gentlemen, is, what do you think was the wise man's solution? Now, this is going to take a little bit of thinking and maybe even some math. So after this section, keep it in mind as we go throughout this core lesson on resourcefulness. And so to recap, we simply introduced the mystery question. We have 3 sons who are trying to divide 17 camels among themselves according to their father's will. The question for you is, what is the wise man's solution to that problem? So that's that for this mystery question. Let's get ready for the next section of resourcefulness. What is resourcefulness and why should it be important to you? So in our next section, I'm going to pose the question to you, what is resourcefulness and why is it important? But of course, I'm going to answer that question also. So let's get into it. What are resources? Can you think of any? What would be the definition, as far as you can define, what are resources? What resources do you have? What are these particular resources that you possess, that you own, that you control? What are your personal resources? Finally, what is your best resource? Now, let's take a moment, push pause. I want you to write down or say out loud, what do you think is your best resource? So, did you have an answer? I hope so. According to Anthony Robbins, also known better as Tony Robbins, American author, philanthropist, and life coach, resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. Kind of interesting play on words, huh? Then the question is, what is resourcefulness? Well, according to the dictionary, resourcefulness is creativity in action. It is taking the available resources, using them to the fullest, and thereby finding an answer or invention or a new discovery that was previously unseen. Once again, remember, creativity in action. Do you recognize this man, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple? He once had something to say about resourcefulness, another definition. He said, instead of focusing on the things you don't have, focus on what you can do with what you do have. And that's resourcefulness in a nutshell. Do you know who this guy is? If you're my age, you probably recognize him instantly. This is, you guessed it, MacGyver. And what was MacGyver famous for being able to do? All MacGyver really needed was a paperclip and some chewing gum to defuse a bomb. That is the ultimate example of resourcefulness. Resourceful people can figure out things on their own. They find a way to make things work. They find solutions to problems using imaginative methods. They're able to use resources at their disposal to help solve problems or overcome obstacles. Do you know who this man is? No, this is not MacGyver after losing his hair. Actually, this is none other than Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. Surprisingly, it wasn't his Ivy League education that he attributes to his success, because he is a Princeton alumni. Actually, it's his ability to be self-reliant. In other words, his ability to be resourceful. Jeff Bezos once said, "As a lot of entrepreneurs know, the whole point of moving things forward is you run into problems. You run into failures. Things don't work. You have to back up and try again. Each one of those times you have a setback and you back up and try again, you're using resourcefulness. You're using self-reliance. You're trying to invent your way out of a box." So why is resourcefulness so important? Highly resourceful individuals have been found to be able to better meet life's challenges and to experience more positive health outcomes. Resourcefulness is one of the top skills a person needs to be successful, especially environments that change quickly or are filled with a lot of competition. And that's really the world today, isn't it? You want to be as adaptable as possible to the world around you, and businesses want people who are as resourceful as possible. So what is resourcefulness and why is it so important? Well, we looked at the definition of resourcefulness. It's creativity in action. We asked, what is the best resource that you have? And well, the answer is resourcefulness. 3, we asked, what should you focus on? And the answer is, instead of focusing on what you don't have, focus on what you do have. And 4, why is it so important? And that's because it's one of the top skills that you will need to be successful and one of the top skills that businesses will look for. Okay, now that you know what resourcefulness is, what your best resource is, and why it's important to be resourceful, let's get ready to take a look at the question, how resourceful are you? So have you been wondering how resourceful you are? Well, we're not going to be able to really accurately judge that, but you might get an idea from something we're about to do. Just as it is difficult to teach someone to be resourceful, it's also difficult to test how resourceful a person is. However, there is an interesting test that comes close and it's fun to try. So let's give it a shot. The purpose is to give you a feeling of how resourceful you might be. And the name of that test is Guilford's Alternative Uses Test. The Alternative Uses Test asks you to think of as many uses as possible for a simple object, like a brick or a shoe or a paperclip. The test is usually time constrained. Practicing this widely used divergent thinking test will also help you develop your ability to think creatively. So what you do is you take an object, give yourself a time constraint, for example, 2 minutes, and try to come up with as many alternative uses for that object as possible. To give you an example, here are some alternative uses for a brick. Number 1, a step. You could put it on the floor and use it to step up. Maybe not that useful, but still an alternative use. A paperweight. You can put a brick on your desk to keep papers in order. Not beautiful, but effective. A diving aid. You could use its weight to help you dive deeper into water. Hope you can hold your breath. Or a cheap dumbbell. Now, if you like to work out at home and all you have is a brick, well, there you go. What about you? Did you have any of the same ideas or something a little more clever? So I think you get the idea of what to do with alternative uses for objects. This test measures divergent thinking, as it is looking for the participant to generate lots of ideas. This is different from most traditional exams, where these traditional exams focus on convergent thinking, which is your ability to reach a single correct solution to a problem. Results of the test are measured across 4 different subcategories. Those are, number 1, fluency, the number of alternative uses you can think of. 2, originality, how unusual those things are, which is evidence of thinking different. Flexibility, the range of ideas in different domains and categories. And elaboration, the level of detail and development of that idea. So why don't you get out a piece of paper and a pen and let's get ready. But as you're getting that piece of paper and pen, we're not really going to be able to judge or score your test. This is just to give you an idea of how resourceful your thinking might be. The actual test is a little more complex and we're not going to be able to go into that. But let's do this just for fun. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think of as many alternative uses as possible for an object I'm going to give you. So get that paper ready, get your pen ready, and I'm going to ask you, are you ready? All right, let me get out my smartphone so I can time you. Start when I say and stop when 2 minutes is up. All right, your first random object is none other than a ping pong ball. Are you ready? Go. Okay, stop. Go ahead and count how many items did you list for a ping pong ball. All right, so you're feeling a little warmed up. Great. I got another one for you. I'm going to put that clock up again. Here's my iPhone. All right, are you ready? We're going to go again. The next random object is a plank of wood. And go. Fantastic. Now, count again. How many items did you list for a plank of wood? Is it more or less than the ping pong ball? All right, now you've really warmed up. Let's just do it one more time. Got my phone out, ready to time you. 2 minutes tops. The next random item is a paperclip. And go. Okay, please stop. Now, count your items again. Do you have more or less the first, second, or third time? Hopefully, you're able to get more as you progress through each of these different items. And I hope you had a little fun. Creative thinking is always a good exercise. So let's recap quickly about judging how resourceful are you. We looked at the alternative uses test, and I gave you 3 different objects to list alternative uses for. That was a ping pong ball, plank of wood, and a paperclip. I hope you had fun. Now remember, being resourceful requires creative thinking, and we're going to go into the next lesson. What can you do to be more resourceful in the future? I'm sure you've been wondering, how can you be a more resourceful person? Well, there are a few things you can do to help you increase your ability to be resourceful, but it may not be what you're expecting. Well, resourcefulness can't really be taught. Sorry to tell you that. There isn't a step-by-step process to make someone resourceful. It's a complex combination of problem solving and creativity. But learning how others have been resourceful, practicing problem solving and creativity, along with a few other techniques, can create the mindset that allows for greater resourcefulness. So again, to be a more resourceful person, you should take the opportunity to solve various problems in the future and study other successful people. You will be exposed to their creative solutions and the thinking that went along with it. So try to solve interesting problems and puzzles and study other successful people. And since we now know that resourcefulness equals creativity plus problem solving, what should we do today in this particular lesson? Well, let's practice. And as we practice creatively solving problems, try to incorporate these ideas. There's 6 of them. Number 1, keep an open mind as best possible as we go throughout these problems. Ask questions. Now, of course, you can't ask me questions. No matter how loud you are, I'm not going to be able to hear you. Collaborate. If you're working in a group, you want to be able to work well with others. So openly work well with group members. Use something called positive skepticism. Skepticism is doubt. However, positive skepticism is questioning, well, can there be another way? It's keeping this question about whether something is really true or not. Bend the rules. It's a way of thinking outside of the box. And of course, don't give up. Keep going, keep pursuing, keep persisting. That way, you'll eventually find success. All right, now get out a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to do a little exercise that I think you're going to find interesting. We're in a desert survival situation, and I'm going to give you that situation, which is actually based on over 2,000 real cases in which men and women either lived or died depending on the decisions they made. And you're going to make some of those decisions now. So here's the scenario. You have been in a plane and your plane has crashed. It's crashed in the desert and you only have a few items to help you survive. You have exactly 15 items. And the idea is to list these 15 items in the order of importance so that they'll help you survive. Now, we don't have time to really complete this activity, but we do have time to look at these 15 items and consider their usefulness in such a situation. Here are the 15 items. Now, going from the top left all the way down to the bottom right, let me just make sure you know what they are. Number 1, a flashlight. 2, a handgun. 3, a raincoat, clear plastic raincoat. 4, a heavy jacket to keep you warm. 5, 1 liter of water. 6, sunglasses. 7, a knife. 8, a cosmetic mirror. 9, a parachute. 10, bandages or gauze. 11, a book on edible animals. This means this book will let you know what animals are safe to eat. 12, a map of the area. 13, a compass. 14, salt. And 15, a bottle of whiskey. Which items do you think are the most important and the least important, and why? Go ahead, push pause, take about 5 minutes and think about it. Write down your list, make notes, and we'll come back and I'll give you the answers. Now, as you're making this list, I want you to keep in mind the 6 things that help you solve problems. Number 1, keep an open mind. 2, ask questions if you have people around you. 3, collaborate if you have people around you now. 4, use positive skepticism, question whether something is real or not. Question the real use of something. 5, bend the rules. And 6, don't give up. But we don't have a lot of time today, right? All right, push pause, make your list, and then come back. All right, let's go over some of the answers. Now, would you believe that 2 of these items are actually dangerous and they can probably kill you in this situation? Which items might those be? Well, they are the salt and the whiskey. Salt here will dehydrate you and take the water out of your body, leading to a quicker death. And whiskey, although it is a liquid, and although it might make you feel better, 1, it takes the water out of your body, and it will give you the false sense of being warm. Alcohol really doesn't warm your body, it just makes you think you're warmer. It can actually drop your body temperature, and it gets cold in the desert at night. Next, 4 items will not help you or hurt you. Which ones are these? The gauze, it's not going to matter if you got cut or not, because if you don't get out of this situation soon, well, you're just probably going to die. The book on edible animals won't matter. Just about any animal's edible. The map won't help or hurt you because you really shouldn't be walking in the desert, and people tend to make circles in the desert. They just end up where they started. And the same goes for the compass. It's not really going to help you get out of a situation, at least not in this one. So, which ones are most important? All these other ones will help you, but can you guess which is the most important of them all? You're probably going to be surprised. It is none other than the cosmetic mirror. Statistically, those people who had a cosmetic mirror of some sort had an 80% chance of being rescued within about 48 hours. You can use this mirror to signal to those around you or to planes passing by. Surprising, right? At least I was surprised when I first heard this. And if you're curious, the real order, here it is, with number 1 being most important and 15 being least important, just to satisfy your curiosity. We don't have time to go into the reasons, but can you see how positive skepticism and bending the rules can open up new possibilities for these objects? So to recap on how to be a resourceful person, remember these things. You want to solve puzzles and problems. You want to practice doing this. It'll help you develop the mind that will become more resourceful. Also, it's really important to study how other people have been successful from their resourcefulness. Go ahead and read about these successful people. Then, things to remember. When trying to be resourceful, keep an open mind, ask questions, collaborate with team members, use positive skepticism, bend the rules when possible, and don't give up. And finally, we went over our desert survival example. I hope you found that valuable and interesting. So if you keep these things in mind, you'll be well on your way to being a more resourceful person in the future. And let's get ready to answer the mystery question. You might be surprised at this tricky answer. So have you been wondering about the answer to our mystery question regarding the camels? Well, it's a little bit tricky and you might be surprised at the answer, so let's just get right into it. Let me remind you of what the mystery question was. We had 17 camels that were left over from the father, who gave them to his 3 sons, and in his will, they needed to divide them accordingly. And that number would be half to the oldest son, a third to the next son, and 1/9 to the youngest son. They couldn't do that because 17 does not divide very well into those numbers, unless you want to cut up a couple camels, right? So what did they do? They asked a wise man for a solution, and the wise man came up with something interesting. So after being approached by these 3 brothers, the wise man listened patiently to the details about the will. After giving the matter some thought, he did something interesting. He took one of his own camels and gave it to the 3 brothers. That increased from 17 camels to 18 camels. Interesting number. Then he started reading the deceased father's will again. He said, half of 18 is 9, so he gave the oldest son 9 camels. Then he said, 1/3 of 18 is 6. So he gave the middle son 6 camels, and 1/9 of 18 equals 2. So he gave the youngest son 2 camels. What does that equal? Interestingly, 17 camels. So how many camels do we have remaining? 1, in which the wise man kindly took back. Everyone was happy, and the wise man kept his camel. So when confronted with challenging problems, remember this story about the 18th camel and try to come up with an innovative solution. And don't forget to become the teacher. What can you do to become a teacher? Well, think about the example of the plane crash in the desert. Show that story to friends. See if they can come up with better answers than you did. See how many can come up with the number 1 choice of the cosmetic mirror. So I hope you found this core lesson valuable, and spread the good news, teach others, and remember to always work on your resourcefulness by solving puzzles and thinking creatively. All right, see you for our final lesson, the 12th lesson, pretty soon on personal branding.